What happens when economic borders harden in a globally connected world? Can any country truly win a trade war in the 21st century? Welcome to the Global Eye. You are with me, Mosmi. Today, we stand at a tipping point in the global history. With President Donald Trump unleashing a new wave of aggressive tariffs, the world is caught in a whirlwind of economic uncertainty. Markets are crashing, alliances are rattling, and the phrase trade war is no longer a metaphor. It's reality. Is it as if we are witnessing a market pandemic? Black Monday, the return of 1987, October 19? Today we have with us a very experienced market expert, Sir Richard Rekhy, Vice Chair, Thornton, Bharat, former CEO, KPMG India. Sir, now welcome to the Global Eye, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here.
So now that we can hear the hue and cry in the market about market crash and all, I just want to know from you, what are the global impacts of wide range of tariff across the globe? What it means for the country imposing these tariffs and the countries on which they are imposed?
So thank you for that question. Just before I get into it, I just thought it'll be important for the viewers to understand that everything on tariffs has not been over. So it's a moving target. Things are going to change as we are discussing today. Tomorrow, something else may happen. I'm sure India would be able to, through their channels, be able to get a better deal for themselves. We can see it because we keep hearing 26% tariff, but actually there's already a base 10% rate. And on top of that, they put 27, with the official thing says 27. So it's actually 37%, but it's still, it's still to be negotiated, etc. So after Donald Trump, actually, he made wide-ranging the way he brought his tariffs. So they were sweeping across all countries, impacting almost every major geography, and what you call, a backlash from various countries. For example, the EU got back. Canada was one very much. China too imposed counter tariffs of the 34% back on the US. Right. And of course, like all markets today, the India market also crashed very badly. And we don't know what is in future for us, because every day is a new day. You wake up, it's a new reality. So if I go back to Robert Kaplan, who was the former president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, what he says that aggressive tariff policies have broad negative consequences for the global economy. This is his statement. And he said it slows down global growth, it disrupts investment decisions, it hurts supply chains, especially in the tech, manufacturing, and agriculture sector. It reduces global trade volumes because global trade has reached a particular volume. And there's, of course, business conflicts which get this thing by this. And it prompts central banks to cut interest rates because obviously they have to make it cheaper for people to borrow and go on. So what do these tariffs imply for the country who is imposing these tariffs? It protects domestic industries because when you want to, from cheaper imports when they come in, it encourages local manufacturing, it generates revenue for the government. So these are some of the positives which are there. And of course, it is used as a bargaining tool in trade agreements. A lot of trade agreements are being done. A lot more trade agreements are going to happen across the world because there are going to be new alignments. There are going to be new trade agreements. And the consequences are what? Retaliatory tariffs, which we are seeing already, inflationary pressure, we are seeing it already. We have seen the mass protest in US of people on the streets in the different states coming out, and of course, disruption in the global supply chain. COVID was the first time global supply chain got disrupted. I think this is now, it's also getting disrupted in a similar way or even bigger than that. The countries on whom tariff is imposed, what happens to them? So they will push or they will diversify their exports to newer markets. But it's very difficult to find a new, if you're exporting to US, to find a new market is not easy, but they will have to start working on it. They will have to incentivize domestic value addition and product improvement. They'll have to improve the overall product quality. They can rally national sentiment around local products like what Canada did. Canada said buy local. They literally removed goods from the shelves, brought
Yes.
Canadian products. The Canadian citizens said, no, we'll only buy Canadian products. So there will have to be a revolution from the citizens, from people like you and
Even they removed the American coffee.
yes, yeah.
They named
So,
it, yeah. Yeah.
actually, I look at that as a big opportunity for India because we've got some good coffee here, which we could also export. And it may also strengthen regional trade alliances, which will bypass the US. And so I think if you ask me, there's a big opportunity to do it, but the challenges are reduced exports. Fortunately for India, we're not an export dominated country. We are a consumption driven economy. Okay. Our exports are a minuscule of what our domestic consumption is. But if you see our stock market, everything is interconnected. You can't say, I was hearing some experts say we are insulated. We are not insulated. We are part of the global system. We are part of the global supply chain. We cannot be insulated. We will get hit. Increased pressure on export-driven industries because export-driven industries are going to be hit. It'll create job. Already we are having job crisis in the country. It'll create even further job crisis and may lead to currency volatility. We've seen currency. Just now our currency slightly recovered against the dollar, but I think we'll go back again. Again, it went down today as you see it. And of course, trade imbalance will go off and it can damage bilateral relationships and investors want to be able to see the future. So when it's uncertain, they pull back on their investment. So that's what's happened to the markets. People have pulled out of the markets. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
So now, just looking at the trade war holistically,
Yeah,
from US tariffs to global retaliation,
yeah.
how would you assess its long-term impact on global trade dynamics, investor sentiment, just as you said about investors now, investor sentiment, and the broader shift towards regionalization of supply chains?
So if you look at it, during COVID, one thing very much came out, two words came out there. One was nearshoring. People said we should nearshore. I mean, I can just tell you, I used to be in Dubai in those days, and the country got really scared because they said we have all the money, but if we don't have food, what will we feed our citizens? So they went for food security. If you see the kind of work that is being done on Dubai in the sands, they are growing agriculture and of course the high end of it, but they're still doing it. So it created something. So the globalization was already breaking. If you ask me, before Trump came in, Trump had an earlier tariff war also, if you realize, but not at this scale. But this trade war has shattered the illusion, whatever was there, that globalization will come back again. That is all gone. And then it accelerated a shift towards regional trade blocks. We've got these regional trade blocks. India is trying to become the head of Global South. As you can see, our Prime Minister is keeping on talking about that. The BRICS have been revived, in a very big way. And they're looking at creating an alternate currency. Whether it happens or not, time will tell. And countries and companies are building resilient, geopolitically aligned supply chains. It is no more about cost effectiveness. It's about trust. Do you trust this ally? Do you trust this partner? So trust has become a very big word. And I think now what companies are trying to do or saying, can we become anti-fragile? I want to use this word anti-fragile. And past experience, if you saw in 90s, 30s, when there was this the Great Depression, and the US raised tariffs on 20,000 products. They thought that they would help protect the farmers, the local manufacturers. But the result was that it triggered the retaliation from 25 countries across the world at that time. Global trade volumes collapsed. US exports fell sharply, and the entire global depression deepened and got very prolonged. It was one of the worst parts of. So, there's an example for us in history. Then we had the second one, the Reagan era, when Reagan imposed tariffs on Japan because he found the Japanese companies were coming. But what it did, by imposing that tariffs, he killed innovation in his own industry because the automobile industry got protection in some ways, and the Japanese quickly remodeled their kind of things, and they brought, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at that time they launched the Lexus, and the Honda launched some of his premium brands, and they went into the US market. So, this can temporarily help, but it really took the prices up, and ultimately the consumer is the biggest sufferer. So I think the biggest challenge which we have is and it created tensions between the trade partners. Because Japan was becoming very friendly to America, and then all this happened. So the investor sentiment, which you asked about, what does happen to investor sentiment? Investors become more cautious about geopolitical risk. In fact, geopolitical risk has become a big risk. In any boardroom you come now, I've been on so many where I go and advise. Geopolitical risk is one of the big risks that all boards look at today to understand how their product will get this thing. So, and also the emerging markets with high exposure to US and China. India's got high exposure to both the markets. Tariffs can be useful in, now you'll say, where is tariffs in generally when you are in strategic cases where you want to protect national security, unfair dumping. If somebody comes and starts dumping goods, you can use tariffs. But broad, prolonged tariffs often backfire. I'm not sure, is there something which President Trump is doing which we can't see? Is it something, I was listening to some video and where they said he's got a bigger plan in place, so don't get, so we don't know what it is, but, and trade also gets undermined with the global confidence. The US trade war marked a turning point in global trade. The US-China trade war, which happened earlier, and it completely changed everything. If you remember, the China +1 strategy came out,
Yeah, yes,
looking
that's
for
right.
new. So they look for areas like Vietnam, India, Bangladesh as new manufacturing bases to,
What do you say about Mexico?
and Mexico, and
Yeah.
Mexico also. Mexico's also was a big area which is there. And Mexico is also a very vibrant economy. If you look at it, it benefited a lot. And so and also China gave back. I mean, China is not to stand. China is not a weak country. China is about 18 to 20 trillion economy.
Right.
US may be 28 trillion, but China is also a big economy. So, and they are very much advanced when it comes to artificial intelligence, etc. They are way ahead of the world. So I think the rethinking of supply chains have come up. New trade blocks will come through. We can see new trading partners coming in. I think India should be India can reimagine, and can we become part of global supply chain? Because now Canada is looking for defense
Yes.
procurement from other countries. So they've reached out to EU. India's got a big defense manufacturing, make in India kind of. So why can't we go to Canada and say, maybe we can fulfill some of your defense manufacturing? So I think there are opportunities which come out in any crisis. There's opportunity for the smart and the agile. So I can see that happening. So, but I think what is going to happen, trade is increasingly going to be shaped by politics, trust, and strategic alignment. So this is where trade is going to, it's not going to go on efficiency or who is more cost effective, etc. It's going to be, I'm reusing the word trust is a big word that is coming.
Indeed, sir. And sir, what actually is the impact of Trump tariff? When he announced it on 2nd April, people say it as a shock, as a wave. So, what is its impact on global economy, especially on Indian economy and American economy? Do you think that these tariffs will push India to become more self-reliant, or will they hurt our key industries, maybe IT, pharma, or autos?
So we are fortunate. Our biggest export is IT. Like you very rightly said, IT services has been the big boon. It has put actually India right on top of the global thing of our intellectual capital, our engineers, and all who have done a great job. So he has not touched services yet. He has moved on good. So the IT is not there. I think on the farmer also there's a special rate which is used for farmer, because India is the pharma capital of the world. It's the pharmacy of the world, as they call it. We make 60% of the global vaccines are made in India. So India, nobody can ignore when it comes to farmers. So they'll have to be careful. Like I said, but I have a strong feeling that whatever tariffs he's put, it may just fall to 15% finally. There will be negotiations. I don't know. I'm not predicting the future, but so how the emerging markets like India getting affected, our export volatility is going to be there. Those export-oriented industries are going to suffer because they don't have a new market. Where do they sell to? And because they'll be uncompetitive with the tariffs which are currently being there. currency fluctuations. We've already seen the old tariff which Trump had put on aluminum and steel, 25 and 10%. Already those industries were suffering in the US, as we have already seen that. Currency fluctuations are going to get worse than what it is. I mean, it won't be surprised if dollar goes to 100 rupees, very quickly, and global risk aversion impacting capital flows. So all the FDI which is flowing into India will get this thing, because they'll be wondering where to put their money. So I think the global volatility with domestic reforms. So India is going through already domestic reforms. You're going through infrastructure build out. There are already enough challenges for us in these two areas. And now this Trump has put this tariff, which has also created its own challenges. So the ongoing tariff impact on India will outplay in a very complex way, especially as global trade remains tense. So honestly, I cannot predict it. I don't know anybody else can predict it, but supply chains are going to get realigned. They're going to get disrupted to a big way. So hopefully something good comes out of it. But this is where we are today.
So, as you mentioned currency just now, so how significant is China's retaliatory tariff strategy for the Trump trade war? And what kind of ripple effects is it creating globally? Will there be any impact on US dollar's dominance, especially with China's push for de-dollarization via alternate currency?
Yes. So so already, if you know that when India was importing oil from Russia, they could not pay them
Yes,
to the SWIFT, because
the
they were,
dollar crisis was there.
yeah, dollar this thing. So they were this thing. So I think at that time they paid in rupees, and then they paid in dirhams, and etc. So there are different alternates which are already being worked out. So if you look at China is already using 7 ASEAN countries have joined China to use their Chinese currency as the alternate currency. Russia will start using it, because the Chinese currency is not a Bitcoin. First of all, it is backed by the Reserve Bank of China, the Central Bank of China, and they are backing this currency, and the settlement is much faster than SWIFT. SWIFT takes 1 or 2 days to do it. These people do it in maybe few hours, or maybe just 1 hour, or less than 1 hour. So the settlement time, the cost has come down. See, the other thing which I did not talk about, I thought I'll just mention it here, because India has already got FTA with UAE and Australia, and they are in talks to do FTA with EU, UK, and Canada. I think they need to quicken this, because this will help in the trade. Because I just had this wild idea in my head, was that if all the other countries got together and they said we have free trade between our countries, and
Right.
leave US out, and you could create, but this is only a dream, so it's not going to happen. But I think so that is going to be one. So I think the Chinese currency is going to be the reserve currency, or some other currency may also emerge. But I think BRICS has been reignited.
Right.
In a way, President Trump has reignited BRICS. He thought he's going to close BRICS down, but he's reignited BRICS. And the trade routes are going to change. So it is not going to be the similar trade routes. So the partners will change. Supply chains, like I said, will be realigned. Foreign investment patterns will change. It will not come from America. Actually, the big money that was coming into India and to the emerging markets and other was coming out of the US. Now, I don't know who's going to put those money in, because anyway, they will need place. So de-dollarization is definitely happening. And as you know, there's already in 2000, 71% of the trade used to happen in dollars. That has fallen already to 58%. This is going to fall even further. So I think dollar is not going to be the dominant. So dollar is not going to be finished, but there will be other currencies will come, and the cross-border trade will happen in those currencies. And that's where the challenge is going to come. And so if you look at dollars, it's still 80 to 85% of global trade is still settled in USD. One more thing is happening, which I don't know whether people noticed it, but countries like Canada, the EU, that is France basically, and China have already started selling their gold bonds, and quite significant. The percentages may not look so big, but they are quite significant in volumes when you look at it. So that also is having a counter impact, because the US, the reserve was the dollar, which was kept in these bonds. And the thing that I was hearing from somebody, that if the stock market starts crashing, the bonds will become an attractive place to invest money. So people
Right.
may start putting money in the bonds. We don't know, but that is also one. So we can see a multi-currency world emerging out of this.
So when you said gold, I just recall history. When we recall 1987, when it was a market pandemic, then also people's interest had turned toward gold. So one last question, sir. In your view, did the tariff war accelerate deglobalization, or has it just reshaped global trade routes and alliance?
The tariff war caused, it will cause, it is not caused because it's just been announced. I'm not sure how long. I'm again going to say I do not know whether it will remain the way it is or he's going to pull back. Maybe he's using this to negotiate with different countries. And President Trump is a big negotiator. So it is going to cause full scale deglobalization. Deglobalization, when I say the way we understand it today, but globalization will continue, will emerge in a new form. So to say that globalization is dead, no, it'll be reshaped the character of globalization the way it is. It will be obviously more fragmented. It will be regional. It will be a strategic model that will emerge. But one thing it exposed was the fragility of the over optimized global supply chain. It again emerged. In COVID, it came out. Again, it is proved that the supply chain is not, it is not strong enough. And it also accelerated this China plus one strategy, which is going to now become real. It was not real, but it's going to become real. And people here's the opportunity for India, because people are going to diversify their manufacturing to India, Vietnam, Mexico, and similar other countries. So here's India's opportunity to be part of the global supply chain and also to start creating new alliances. India has always been neutral. So India has never favored one country right through since we got independence. So we will see the new trade blocks that will come in. There's already the EU trade deals which are happening across. There is the RCEP, and then new terms have emerged. Friendshoring, nearshoring, and self-reliance. So these are new things that are going to come. So rather than deglobalization, it's a case of reglobalization on new terms. So this will be the new thing that will get played out. When, how, time will tell.
Thank you so much, Sir Richard Rekhy, sir, and thank you so much for enlightening me and all our viewers. Yes, we are in the midst of market turbulence, and the world feels on edge. However, this moment can actually serve as a wake-up call, not just for the policymakers, for all of us to rethink how we can trade, how we build, and how we connect. So, the global economy has always been a story of reinvention, if I'm not mistaken. And even now, amidst tariffs and tensions, as you have said, new alliances are forming, chains are realigning, and nations are finding fresh ways to collaborate. So let us remember, markets may stumble, but human resolve doesn't. And if we choose dialogue over division, strategy over reaction, and vision over fear, I think out of this chaos, it can emerge a stronger, fairer, and a balanced global order. Thank you so much for global. Thank you so much for watching the Global Eye, and we meet again with a new topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.